right to bear arms for self-defence, enhance public safety. And I give notice on the next sitting day, I will move 1, that this House welcomes the recent visit to New South Wales by renowned gun rights academic Dr John Lott Jr, founder of the Crime Prevention Research Centre. 2, that this House notes that Dr Lott's evidence-based work challenges the false dichotomy between freedom and safety. 3, that this House commends Dr Lott for demonstrating through rigorous analysis that individual freedoms, including the right to bear arms for self-defence, enhance public safety by empowering law-abiding citizens. 4, that this House acknowledges the event held in the Jubilee Room of Parliament in conjunction with the Shooters Union Australia and Students for Liberty Australia, where Dr Lott spoke alongside New South Wales Libertarian Party lead 2027 candidate Gemma Noisi, Vice President of the Shooters Union Australia Dave Brown, and convener of Students for Liberty Australia Jordan Ditloff on preventing another Bondi tragedy through more gun rights, not less. 5, that this House notes that claims by former Prime Minister John Howard in the New York Times in January 2013 asserting that Australia's 1996 gun reforms reduced gun-related homicides and cut firearm suicides by 75%, relying on misleading before and after averages that ignore pre-existing downward trends in crime rates. 6, this House notes that Zach Beaucamp's claim in Vox in May 2022 that Australia's average firearm homicide rate fell by 42% post-96 similarly overlooks the importance of examining total homicide and suicide rates rather than firearm-specific ones, as substitution effects means overall all rates often remain unchanged. 7, this House notes that Australia's 1996 gun buyback and confiscation program saw over 650,000 guns handed in and destroyed, representing about 20% of the total at the time. Yet gun ownership in Australia rebounded significantly, with estimates showing over 3.6 million guns being bought in recent years, growing faster than the population in subsequent periods. 8, that this House notes the distinction between homicide, which includes manslaughter, and murder, and questions why these are often lumped together in gun control debates, as a law could theoretically reduce murders while increasing homicide or vice versa. 9, that this House notes that while the US has a higher murder rate than Australia, victimisation survey data reveals Australia has significantly high rates of other crimes, including total assaults at 43.3 per 1,000, which is 127% higher than the US, robbery at 2.7 per 1,000, 21% higher than the US, sexual assault at 7.1 per 1,000, 254% higher than the US, and burglary at 23.9% per 100, 192% higher than the US. 10, that this House notes the limitations of police protection in Australia, with about 82,000 officers in total and about 1/3 on duty at any time, equating to 1 officer per 975 people amongst 28 million Australians, and an average response time for urgent calls in New South Wales of 11 minutes. 11, that this House notes that in numerous places around the world that have banned guns or all handguns, murder or homicide rates have often not fallen as predicted and often risen, as evidenced by examples such as handgun bans in Washington DC and Chicago in the United States, where murder rates have increased post-ban. 12, that this House notes that gun bans disproportionately disarm law-abiding citizens rather than criminals, making it easier for crimes to be committed. And while firearms suicides may drop, total suicide rates show no net change due to method substitution. 13, that this House notes that those who benefit most from gun ownership are the most vulnerable, including poor black residents in high-crime urban areas, women and the elderly. US National Crime Victimisation Survey data shows women who behave passively are 2.5 times more likely to be seriously injured than those with a gun. 14, that this House notes that the dangers of gun-free zones, as illustrated by the Annunciation Catholic School shooter in Minneapolis in September last year, whose manifesto explicitly targeted such gun-free zones for their lack of armed resistance, citing prior attackers like James Holmes and Adam Lanza. 14, that this House notes that former US President Barack Obama's statement in 2015 claiming mass shootings are unique to the US and have no parallel elsewhere, yet mass public shootings in European countries like Belgium, France and the Netherlands, with stricter gun laws in Australia, remain notable when measured on a per capita basis. 16, that this House notes that gun control advocates selectively highlight countries like Australia while ignoring US states with very lax gun laws, graded F by the Giffords Group, that have experienced relatively few, if any, public shootings, including New Hampshire, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, West Virginia and Wyoming. 17, that this House reaffirms the New South Wales Libertarian Party's unwavering commitment to defending the right to self-defence, ensuring that law-abiding citizens are not stripped of their freedoms under the guise of safety. And 18, that a disarmed population is vulnerable to a tyranny and invasion.